Hey, listen up. Yeah, we here and we locked in. Let's keep it going all the way to the top 10. We fear the turtles, so it's no other option. Fred and Ryan, just watch them. Let's take it to the max. It's the Shell and Tell. They come with all the facts. It's the Shell and Tell. Let's take it to the max. It's the Shell and Tell. They come with all the facts. It's the Shell and Tell.
What's up, Terps fans? Fred and Ryan back with another edition of the ShellnTell podcast. It's Tuesday, December 27th. Happy belated Christmas. Hope you all had a great holiday as we are now a couple days away for our Duke's Mayo Bowl trip. The Terps head down to Charlotte. We're going to dive into who's playing, who's not, and how do we see this game shaking out.
And by Christmas, I assume you mean early signing day because, you know, it's one of the many days I look forward to as a Terps football fan. Loxley had some surprises for us again, and he pissed off some more people. So we'll be talking the National Signing Day drama as usual.
Yeah, big boys in their feelings, man. So let's start there, man. National Signing Day, as you said, it's kind of coming past at this point. National Signing Day, it's a day for fans. It can only be compared to the NFL draft, I think, in a lot of ways, just college style. Some call it National Signing Day. I call it National Salty Day because, like you said, coaches, fans, players, everybody's extra salty in the reactions and feelings to decisions and what goes on behind the scenes with the decisions. It's a wild fucking ride.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. People get their feelings hurt. People get their feelings hurt for good reasons. People get their feelings hurt for no reasons. You know, it's all over the board, and we had a little of both this year.
Yeah. Well, class now ranked as a top 25, coming in at 23rd overall by some. I've seen it as high as 40s by others. So Ahmed and I, which Ahmed could not be with us today because Ryan is dealing with a bout of COVID, unfortunately. So we've had to postpone this a couple of times. But scheduling just didn't work out. Yeah. Yeah. You sound a lot better than you did a couple days ago.
We're getting better for the bowl game. We're like 85, 90%. So we'll be good to go, I think. We're going to work through it.
We're coming. We're going to go. But Ahmed and I were kind of discussing the variance in some of these rankings because years ago, man, there's all these different ranking systems, and you know how I feel about rankings. I don't really put a whole lot into them, but there really wasn't a whole lot of disparity between them. They were a lot closer. You know, you saw some that was 23 and then maybe one that was 25 or 26, but you're starting to see these big variances. So I was asking him, because I don't think a lot of fans realize like kind of what goes into the factoring of these rankings. Some of these rankings, the transfer portal has kind of changed everything. You know, some of these rankings are only based on the incoming freshman class. And then some of these rankings are based on the incoming freshman class and the incoming transfers that are coming in. And that's where you're seeing, I think, some of these rankings as high as 23, because not only do we have a very, very strong class coming in with these freshmen that we're going to go through here in a minute, but we also got some really good guys coming in on the transfer portal as well.
Yeah, top level corner and some big time help in the defensive line, wide receivers. That's going to definitely bump you up. The last one that I saw had us at 30. I think I was looking for a top 25 class, but we had two cherries that supposedly are still in play, but didn't quite land in that early signing day period. That would have put us right there in that top 25 I was looking for.
Yeah. This is why, though, I also don't putting much stock in commitments anymore. You know, these kids, they put out their social media posts. Yeah, but like it's gotten even worse. You know, it's gotten even worse over the years, especially now with NIL and stuff like that. I don't personally invest until the ink is dry on signing day. Like that's when it really matters. Just how the process evolved over time. And I think how a lot of fans feel now, committed really doesn't mean much anymore.
Yeah, depending on the different players. So, like, if I see somebody committed and I feel like there's a reason, am I, like, certain it's going to happen? No. But right. Do I get, like, emotionally invested with, like, a local kid that, like, whatever, something like that? But, like, me and you from the beginning with Champ Long, did I want Champ Long to sign with us? Sure. But, like, I kept waiting for that foot to drop. There's over and over again. He went to the Elite 11 and showed off. I'm like, somebody is going to come with a big fucking bag. And,
well, we're kind of... We're kind of scorned because we had that happen with the other kid last year. I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head. That
the one that went to
was
Purdue.
Committed. Yeah,
Swan.
right, exactly. Swan. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so
AJ Swan.
So, I was waiting for that to happen. If he was 2 inches taller, I think it would have happened. But we've got Talia out there that's doing great things with a lack of height in that position already. So we did get that big time quarterback that's done big time things in the recruiting. The other part of these recruiting rankings that's a mess is some of these you can pay to be ranked on them. So others, you can't be paid to. I'm sure you can in reality be paid to be ranked higher, but just pay them to analyze your tape is what it's sold as. And we'll do our honest ranking after that. Well, okay. How much did you pay for that honest ranking, guys?
Right, exactly. Exactly. All right, well, let's dive into some of these guys and their rankings because apparently that matters, right? Let's talk some. We're not going to go through everybody because I think over the course of the offseason, when we start to get a little bit more information on some of these guys and we get a feel for what their roles are going to look like with the team, I think we'll dive into each and every one of these as the time goes on. But I wanted to hit on some key pieces. And we'll start with the big flips. As you mentioned, there were 2 big flips. It started with an NC State flip, kind of ironic.
Our first win of the week. Or a month.
First win of the week, yep. A 3-star safety in Tamarcus Cooley. Again, a position of need. We had some guys that ended up hitting the portal. That's going to hurt us from depth perspective. So it's definitely a position of need and always good to steal it from an ACC team as well.
Yeah, it's great to stick it to the ACC. I hope we beat NC State as bad as we beat Virginia Tech last year. My goal as a Terp is to never lose another ACC game in football. That'd be great, for the rest of the time. So I'd like to prove that we have improved since our ACC days that way. So this was great to see that early flip. It was a good sign that where there was going to be a surprise because we got a lot of our commitments in early, and the one that we didn't, we had an explanation for pretty much immediately. But the surprise to happen gave you this anticipation that, okay, Loxley's got more cooking. Maybe something's going to happen.
Exactly. And the next piece that flipped was one of the pieces that created a lot of the drama. A local guy out of outside linebacker, defensive end, Neo Avery. This is a kid that had a lot of hype, 4-star, comes in and he could play off the edge. He could play more of in that Sam role where he can play back in coverage as well. This is a kid that excites me a lot for the future of the program.
Yeah, as far as the early signing day period, this was pretty much the big fish. This was, we knew Harbor was not on board for early signing day. He, from the beginning, has said February is it. We are not, as signing early. There's been some talk recently that he's close to a commitment, so we'll see. But like you said, schmittman until he signs February 5th is the game on. That's full court press until pen to paper fully. So this was the big fish. This was the Barham of last year that we got from South Carolina to reach back into the SEC again to get this Ole Miss flip. In fact, I will call it out now. I think it was do you remember who did that article? It was a Testudo Times. I won't put Testudo Times name on there. Somebody put out an article about how disappointing this class was and how Loxley was supposed to be able to reach into the SEC and get big flips, and that Loxley was supposed to be able to it was a shame that we couldn't keep Caleb Williams here in his own backyard. What are you talking about? The big flips are here. They have been every year. You said the SEC. It was exactly that. He got Barham from the SEC last year, and he got Neo Avery from him this year. And what made you think that the guy that won the Heisman...
And he got Rack from LSU 2 years prior.
Yeah. And the guy that won the Heisman, it's a shame we couldn't get him to sign for a 5-win team at that point. We were a 5-win team. That's what he had to pitch. You're the best quarterback in the country. It's amazing we made the top 2. It's mind-blowing that we stayed in his top 2. to go to a 5-win team, and he was as good as we thought he was. Like he was the quarterback of the future, and I'm still trying to sell everything in Dynasty to have him on my Dynasty team.
I mean, listen, I get being in your feelings because especially with local kids, you want to keep them all home, but that's just not the reality. That's not where the program was at, but it is where the program is starting to trend. That does not happen overnight. It's year over year. It's what we're seeing in the process, in the improvement in the program. We're seeing it. Again, it might not be the big bounds and leaps that some fans hope for, but it's improvement year over year. And it seems to be we're getting more and more of these local kids staying around.
Absolutely, and it's never going to be everybody. I mean, Michigan loses people to us that they would want. You know, it's not going to be everybody. And here, especially when we really aren't the big show in town, we aren't the branded things. We all know, like, you know, you try to get people to go to the games with you. They don't have never even heard of it. They've never been to a game. They're 35, 40 years old, never been to a Terps game. I mean, that's not a thing in other places. Like, everyone has been to multiple games at all of these colleges, whether you went there or not, because it's the thing to do for the surrounding 300-mile radius.
Right.
So it's a totally different ball game. We're going to lose kids that want us, you know, see the world and get outside of their bubble. So it just is what it is. I'm not mad when we lose a few. Like, let's talk about the Big Tree situation this year. Did I want Big Tree on this team? Absolutely. I was really happy to see him decommit and to hear that we were back in play. But the fact that he went to South Carolina, cool. Like, that is what it is. I'm not too worried. I'm a little interested why South Carolina is so fucking mad at us for wanting to keep our players that are from Maryland. Like, if I'm reaching into South Carolina and taking your people, be pissed. Go for it. Do you? But what are you mad that we're keeping ours? I just don't
exactly. What do you expect us to not recruit in our own backyard? Of course, we're going to do everything that we can to keep those guys here. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And that's the thing. Like, the whole social media stuff, I get it from players because, again, they're young and they're just maturing and all that stuff, and the back and forth and even the trolling and all that stuff. I hate it, but I understand it. I get it. They're kids. The fan is short for fanatics, right? So I get why the fans get emotionally involved. But when the coaches come out and they say some of the things that they do and they tweet some of the things that they tweet, I just don't understand. It's not a good look for your program. Like, I understand they're probably doing this to try to make them look cool to these kids and be attractive for them. But I think it's a bad look for the program. Locks has personally never done that. And so I just don't understand why, again, like you said, the SEC, the powerhouse of college football, why are you worried about little old Maryland? Like, I don't understand that. Recruiting in their own backyard.
All right, well, let's flip back to that one. Little old Maryland. Yeah, the Neo Avery recruitment pissed off Mr. Lane Kiffin. Mr. I'm going to, crip walk in the streets with my recruits. Mr. fucking new team every 3 years because he's the new fucking Irving Meyer that has a new fucking thing trailing him. A new issue that's going to catch up. A ghost from the past is worried about Maryland. So he, after losing Neo Avery to University of Maryland, passive aggressively, like a woman, retweets an old tweet by running backs head coach Elijah Brooks that was the sign of bowl eligible for the Terps. Just like a shot that, like, we celebrated bowl eligibility. Number one, we celebrated bowl eligibility multiple games for the end of the year this year. It wasn't even like, I feel like every team would throw that up on the sign at that point of the year. At some point,
like, exactly.
Yeah, it's not even that good of a shot. But then Elijah Brooks replied back, "Why you worry about little old Maryland?" and Lane Kiffin shoots back again. It was like I'm very happy that
was
Loxley
excited to learn Coach Locks
bowl.
was excited to learn Coach Locks and qualified for his second bowl game. Hadn't seen that until today. He's one of my favorites, Coach Locks. Heart.
Yeah, well, so passive aggressive, so whiny. I don't understand how anyone could respect that response in any way, shape, or form. And yet I just hear other fan bases trash Loxley like he is the, like, scum of the earth. Like, I just look, everybody's got, skeletons, but my God, like, don't act like your guy's spot free and mine's a devil. I just don't understand it. Like,
Right.
my man's doing it right now. That's all that matters. I ain't worried about it. He's made good on his past, and he's doing well for his city at this moment and doing well for these kids. Like Loxley always says, you know, third-party validation is what he goes on. He doesn't worry about, you know, telling you something. I'm going to have somebody else tell you something about me. Like, that's the best way to know who somebody is. So,
exactly.
You know, keep the stuff going if you want, but I think he's doing great jobs in Maryland.
100%. 100%. All right, let's wrap up on Neo Avery again. A big get, a big flip, 4-star, 6'5", 236-pound linebacker. Like I said, I think he's got the explosive, the quick step. I think Locks even compared him to Yannick, like as far as his type of explosion. And that's kind of really one of the areas of need with this team is another edge rusher. You know, you having Barham on one side and having an Avery on the other side just excites me about the future. It was what I hoped we would have had with Chop before he ended up going up to Penn State. So I'm excited about him, but it didn't end there, as they end up locking up one of his teammates as well as another 4-star in Dylan Gooden. It commits and signs on the dotted line with the Terps.
Yeah, another big pickup. I mean, he was a commitment as already beforehand, but, you know, like you said, pen to paper is the most important part of this whole step. So we got him in the fold. He was quoted out on Twitter as saying, you know, reunited in the Big Ten ain't ready. So he's confident. I think the Big Ten probably ready, but I'm happy to have the talent. We're gonna be able to build you something special around here. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, and it's the kid, if you recognize the last name, Gooden, he is the son of legendary pitcher Dwight Gooden, four-time All-Star, World Series champion with the Mets. If you remember years ago, Darryl Strawberry, his son, DJ Strawberry, played for the Terps on the basketball squad, so former teammates. I don't know what that says about Maryland, two guys that have quite the history. But either way, both of these guys are uber talented. Both their sons uber talented. So it's exciting to have Gooden and Avery, both teammates in high school, now going to be lining up in Terps gear. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so we got that, and we got a whole stable of wide receivers in the cabinet. God knows who will stick and who won't. There's a whole list of everybody jumped up in the middle there, and we got, you know, we have a whole room to replace unless Sheshaun Jones gives us some good news here shortly. There still's been a little bit of talk that's possible that he does make this return. I think a lot of it's going to be, you know, depending on Talia's decision, and then his own performance in this bowl game, now that he gets to be the only mouth to feed in this moment with any experience on the field.
Yeah, I think a lot of decisions are going to ultimately come down to what is Leah's future with the Terps. So we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. Another 4-star.
A lot of fan decisions as well when it goes on.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. Another 4-star in the fold is athlete / tight end, which is what he apparently is going to play here at Maryland. Rico Walker. This is a guy, like I said, he can play on both sides of the ball. But with the opportunity now at tight end, with a couple guys leaving, that seems to be the path of least resistance for early playing time for him. There's another exciting kid that, again, fills a void that we definitely needed.
Yeah, huge void. I mean, already C.J. Dupree out for and announced it was between Ohio State and Alabama. Announced today that it was Alabama. So
Thank
that's
God.
the better of two worlds. I didn't want to see him hurdling a Terp next season. You know, kind of remind me of Chop last year, where like I'd originally lost him and it hurt, and I was losing my mind, and I was over it, and I was convinced that he was going up to USC to play with Caleb Williams. And then he went to Penn State. It hurt all over again. So I was just kind of, rehashing that that's what it was going to be. Is Ohio State, who started this bullshit by getting in his ear on the field, was going to pay it off by bringing him back next year against us. And luckily that did not happen. I only had to hurt once this year.
Yeah. But losing a guy like Dupree, losing a guy like Weston Wolf, really the only guys you got left. Spot. Yeah, I mean, even when we had Chig on the show, Chig said, "Listen, when he gets his time, he's going to surprise you. He's a an explosive athlete. He's a lot of fun to watch. So he's going to be going to USF down to South Florida. So he's gone. That leaves us with Corey Dyches, and that leaves us with LaRon Husbands at tight end.
Even Dyches has had rumors, so who knows?
Right. So that's so that's not even a guarantee at this point.
Yeah.
So getting a guy like Rico Walker again is a big get, but there's still a couple of other big pieces out there. One that could also directly impact the tight end position, Nick Harbor. It's been kind of back and forth from what we've talked about with Ahmed, hot, cold, warm. I mean, he's been all over the place. As of recent, I mean, things have definitely been more positive with all the visits and everything that he had with the Terps. So I'm still holding out hope that we can get this kid. Again, I think just the opportunity for playing time right away as a freshman's got to be appealing to him, and obviously being in his backyard.
Yeah, especially if we do lose more pieces, he's definitely going to be in that starting lineup. I mean, he would be either way with that kind of talent. But,
Right.
Rico Walker came in. He's got offers from Georgia. Like this is no schlack. This is a big boy, high-level person you're putting in that situation. He also had offers from North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky. So, it's
second overall in North Carolina, I believe.
Yeah, it's good.
Second overall prospect.
Yeah, it's a big get for locks, especially in our old ACC stomping grounds. We've stayed hot. We got our wide receiver out of North Carolina last year was the big get as well. So another hotbed we're growing as we lose very slowly our players from home.
And then I guess the other pieces that are still out there that would be the icing on the cake, I think, for this class. If we can end up pulling the twins and Michael and Andrew Harris. Sounds like mom and dad are on board with the Terps. Sounds like
and one twin,
which makes this a sticky situation. I think Arkansas is the other team that's still in play here, but nobody has visited Arkansas. The parents haven't visited Arkansas, and again, they're still sold on Maryland. So I'm still holding out hope here. It didn't seem like there was a rush to make a decision, so it could just be a ploy to see how much more in money comes in, NIL deals, opportunities, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it worries me a bit that we've gone to February. I'm much more familiar with Fayetteville than many schools around here. My wife is from Bentonville, which is where the actual airport is that's called Fayetteville Airlines. They just put the name Fayetteville on this so that they pretend their school has an airport. They don't. It's definitely not the same town. It's definitely a long ride. Outside of Bentonville being the home of Walmart, which is like just money in the middle of nowhere nothingness, there's not a lot to love. So hopefully these are city boys that love Florida a lot. But my worry is that NIL has made paying players legal. Arkansas has never really been a big factor, even though they're in the SEC, even though they have those funds around in the old school greatness, because you needed to be sketchy to pay players. You couldn't have a bad PR come back on somebody like a board member at Walmart or Jerry Jones, who went to University of Arkansas and played football. Huge freaking pockets we're talking about. But now that it's legal and it's not the car salesman and the oil guys that couldn't give two fucks if they get caught with, a bag of money given to a high schooler for a PR example, these are board members. If Arkansas can actually dig into these pockets, it's some of the deepest pockets in the country. Like, I mean, I get, you got your LAs and all your Miami's got money and all, but when you're talking of the wealthiest individuals on the planet, when you have all the Walton children and Jerry Jones at the same school, that's an awful large chunk of the top 25 guys. An awful large chunk.
Yeah.
So
and it would be pocket change to those guys.
Nothing. They just bought the Broncos last year like it was on a whim. I mean, it's went great. So maybe they'd be like, well, the Broncos suck. I need to make the college team better. Like, who knows? I mean, it is a worry that's who's involved more than anything else. And it's also just a worry because of, the way it is until ink to paper. And these guys are from Florida. Like, they don't have any ties, necessarily for this to be an emotional thing. I love hearing that mom's still on board. I love hearing one of the kids still on board, but that could also be exactly what they're telling Arkansas is that we have to convince one twin.
If it comes down to money being the determining factor, you're probably right. I hadn't really thought that much outside the box on it, that we will get outbid by any of those guys down there at Arkansas. But what I'm hearing is positive. If they get involved, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's nothing yet that proves these are who are the bag boys.
Right.
But now there's nothing stopping them. Like before, they couldn't have a bad PR. But now it's not bad PR. It's just business. Like here's a Walmart commercial for $8 billion.
Right.
And it looks great on paper.
That's definitely true. But if money isn't the determining factor, the good thing is, again, the parents have relationships with the coaching staff here at Maryland, multiple coaching staff members here at Maryland. Yeah. They don't have a relationship with anybody at Arkansas right now. I think one of the players has been, or one of the twins has been in contact with one coach down there, but beyond that, they really don't have a whole lot of connections. They really don't have a whole lot of relationship. So I still like our chances there. I know we all want them in the fold, and we want them in the fold now, but just be patient with this one.
Yeah.
I think over time, this could pay off for us. We'll see.
I fell into the problem. I think they took the shining off early sign day for me because I was waiting. I kept being told it's going to happen. This just happening later until like Friday at midnight. And then when it just didn't happen, I was like, I mean, the class is okay, but like, is it? But looking back, I'm pretty happy with it. Like, I think we had a pretty good class. But
again,
in the moment, they stole my celebration. Like, I should have just celebrated when Neo Avery signed, like it was the end of the day. Like, woo, we got it. But like, I was told there was more. But wait, there's more.
There's always more, Ryan. There's always, you're never getting 100% of the guys that you're involved.
But if we would have got those two, literally February would have just been, is it Harbor or not? Like, that's what you've been waiting for. That's it. Like, everything
you put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it was be like, we're just going to talk about Harbor for freaking 3 months. That's what we're going to do.
Exactly. But listen, I think if you're a realistic fan, being a fringe top 25 recruiting class year in and year out, I think would be a good goal. I mean, occasionally you'd like to crack that top 25 and be a top 10, top 15 class. I just don't think that's realistic. Not now. Maybe that's, 5 years or more down the road, we can get to that point. But I think at where we're at right now, a 7-win team in the regular season to be a fringe top 25 class, I think is again, trending in the right direction. But
20 to 30 gets the job done for a while. Yeah.
Right. But again, it doesn't end there with just the incoming freshman class, right? Because obviously, like we've talked about at ends, the transfer portal has changed everything. And right now it looks like we have 13, 14 players that are leaving Maryland. But when you look at what's leaving versus what's coming in through the transfer portal and through this signing class, the guys that are going out were a lot of depth pieces.
For CJ Dupree.
That was the one key. That's the one key, right? So that was
everybody
that was
else.
The dagger.
We compare apples to apples.
that was the dagger through the heart. But I want to say 3 or 4 of these guys, I think it's 4 of these guys are all following the Pogge train out to Charlotte, right? And so in my mind, they're downgrading. I mean, they're going from a Big 10 Power 5 team down to Charlotte to play there. And I think that's where a lot of these guys that are leaving, they're guys that just didn't have a whole lot of opportunity here. We're probably going to have to sit yet another year before they got opportunity. They want to play now. So they're going to these smaller schools. Dupree was the one upgrade. He was the one guy who's like, hey, I'm going to a perennial national championship team. I'm going to the blue of blue bloods. I can't blame him on that. You hate it, but I can't blame him on that. Again, he's not a kid that is from Maryland, so he didn't have the home-rooted, connection here. So it is what it is with him. But
and again, his position coach just left, which seems to be the one position we are like just bleeding is the guy you actually played for directly bailed.
Right.
So like,
right.
You don't have that direct tie to disappoint someone. It's the head coach after that.
Exactly. But here's the thing, right? So between guys that are leaving for NFL draft, guys that are leaving because they're seniors and they're graduating, guys that are leaving through the transfer portal, you have to replace that with guys coming in through the portal with guys that can make an impact right away. And when you start looking at the names, I mean, he's got 6 guys so far in the portal that are committed and have signed with Maryland. That I think all 6 of these guys can make an impact right away next year and fill big voids and fill big holes. We talked last week or the last show about the Cincinnati quarterback, Jaquan Shepard, who comes in. He fills an immediate need with the loss of Dante Banks, who is now going on to the NFL, right? That's a big hole and a good guy. I mean, this is one of the top rated corners in that conference.
It's a huge grab.
It's a huge grab. I think one of the more underrated grabs that we got through the portal is St. Francis out of New York, defensive lineman Donnell Brown. This kid was all world in the conference that he played in as well. So that's a huge get there. A guy that plugs the middle, but can also create pressure through the middle, which is a big need for this team. We talked about that earlier. Getting pressure to the quarterback is going to be the next difference maker on this defense, which I think we've talked about before. This defense played a little bit above, way above, I think, our original expectations going into this year. The biggest need was pressure, right? Getting to the quarterback. That was still the biggest need. And I think this kid can come in and make an immediate impact. Yeah, it was
developing through the year. I mean, Barham was coming into his own by the end of the year. So as long as we don't have another departure that would crush my soul, that will be very helpful.
Right.
But yeah, this guy is coming from, very low level football, but the coaches seem ecstatic to get him. So I'm going to believe in the coaches. They've found some real diamonds in the rough and developed him over the years here. So after looking at these transfers the only worry I have is offensive line, and we're still working on that and got a bunch of things in the fire.
Yeah, so we end up getting a commitment on a transfer from LSU, offensive tackle Marcus Dumerville. He's a guy who could come in and immediately fill the void of not having drew a blank.
Jalen
Duncan. God, couldn't think of his name. Jalen Duncan.
I wasn't sure if you meant the high school kid or our current loss.
Jalen Duncan and the void of losing Ja'Kai Green, who Ja'Kai Green was also a piece that kind of rotated around on the offensive line at the tackle position, who was going to Charlotte. So again, a kid that already started in the SEC. He's got quite a few starts under his belt, could come in and make an immediate impact. There's still some talk around Baylor tackle Micah, as I think it's Muskua. Still up in the air on that one. There's some talks with Ethan White, a guard out of Florida. So there's still some coals in the fire as far as offensive line goes, because I'm right there with you. I think that's our biggest concern and our biggest need. But if we can get a couple of these other guys.
I was worried about defensive backs. I was worried about offensive line. Defensive backs are pretty well set. I mean, you got the transfers in of multiple safeties and a big-time cornerback, and I think we're keeping enough pieces that will be a really good spot, especially with how well our young players played last year. I'm sure we'll find one or two more of the guys that didn't quite get there this year that Loxley can develop in those positions, because as we talked, he has a type. They are long, they are lean, and that is what he has been putting in this defensive backfield. So if you got that many that are catching on, I think there's a few more there to develop as well. So the offensive line, because we are probably losing Jalen Duncan, even though I find no reason for him to go to the NFL, even though we are losing Spencer Anderson, most likely, though, again, he could probably come back and play. We need some dudes. And this is why these guys that are transferring in are a much bigger deal than missing out on Big Tree to South Carolina. Because, yes, do we need to start hitting on the high school guys? Absolutely. But right now, especially if Talia is coming back, impact. We have to win again next year. And a freshman lineman in the Big Ten doesn't usually play. Like, Jalen Duncan did pretty well, but that's it. Like, that's the only example we have of that. Maybe that was detrimental to his development, because I think it was his best season.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Delmar Glaze as well. Does he move over to the left side? Does he stay on the right side now with Dumerville coming here? But again, like you said, with those pieces leaving, we definitely have some holes in depth. Again, if we can add a couple of guys, I'd feel a lot better about it.
And the other big thing I'm crossing my fingers on, man, after this bowl game, because we all know there's gonna be another list of people to the portal, is we need to keep Mason Lunsford right where he is. Y'all can have a problem with Mason Lunsford's false starts. Y'all can have a problem with Mason Lunsford having a couple holds over the year, but the difference in the games that he didn't get to play and did play was night and day. I spoke to him on the field after that Rutgers game where we got to go down on the field and take the picture, and just told him, man, like, this is a completely different offensive line with you in the mix. I hope you stick around to make this fight right. So I hope he does. I hope we don't see his name anywhere near, because at mid-year there was some rumblings, and then he got the injury, and then he came back and really showboated. So I hope that both the coaching staff and he now appreciate what his role is here, and is more cemented than he felt last offseason in that role.
Yeah, and I think last year heading into the season, that was one of the big things that we were most excited about was the continuity of the offensive line, having these guys all. Yeah, and right now we're not going to have any, right? So having him come back, I think, would be a very under the radar move in keeping him here. So hopefully that happens. Couple other pieces we got coming in from the portal. I'll just go over them real quick. Another defensive lineman out of Tennessee, Jordan Phillips. He was a guy who was rumored to the Terps, was it 2 years ago, but ended up going with Tennessee. Now leaves Tennessee and comes to Maryland. So another guy that can make an immediate impact in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. Safety was a position, as we talked about earlier, of need. We obviously got Tamarcus Cooley, the NC State flip, coming in, but he's not going to be ready, I don't think, as a freshman to play. So we get one of the better safeties in the country in Avante Williams out of Miami. That's exciting. This is a guy, again, that can come in and step in and play immediate minutes, especially losing a guy like Isaiah Hazel, who no, he wasn't a starter, but he was in a rotational piece, right? He was a guy who could play free or play strong. He lined up in many different roles, and I think this kid can come in and fill that same void.
Yeah, Isaiah Hazel was haunted by his rating. As much as we hate stars, when you have 4 of them, we expect more.
Right.
And so, my man came in as a 4-star athlete, a flip from WVU, and so was he a good player for us throughout the time he was here? Yep. But we kept waiting.
But he was
for
a 4-star wide receiver. That's the thing.
Okay,
he was a 4-star wide receiver coming in.
Then he should have been a better wide receiver and not had to play DB.
Agreed.
I mean, at some point when you come with that 4th star, the 4 and 5 stars, we expect these rating systems to not miss. You know, we know that there's going to be 2 stars that end up great, but we expect the 4 and 5s to work, especially at the college level. So, you know, that's what he was haunted by because, you know, looking back, yes, he was a good contributor, but he wasn't the starter quality player that we thought we were getting.
Right. The wide receiver room, which you kind of brushed on a little bit earlier, we're going to be a little depleted, especially from the starter standpoint, right? Obviously, you're losing 3 guys that have NFL dreams in Rack, Copeland, and Demas, all guys that are announced their commitment to, that won't be playing in the bowl, that are all going into the NFL draft. The one still on the fence, the 4th guy in that rotation, Jayshon Jones. Hopefully he sticks around. But beyond that, you got a lot of youth. You got a lot of guys that we'll probably see in this bowl game. You got Shalik Knotts, you got Leon Halton, and you got Ty Felton, who obviously got a little bit of run here and there. We got a good slew of freshmen coming in this year, but a guy that I think can make an immediate impact comes through the portal, a kid out of FIU, wide receiver Tyrese Chambers. He could be that Jacob Copeland, a guy that could come in and make an immediate impact this year.
Yeah, definitely a big grab. We would get him in here and really solidify that window of having, you know, Talia back with a whole stock of weapons. You still have the Shalik Knotts that we saw splashes from this year. We still have Ty Felton that showed his top level elite speed, but we do need to fill. It's not what we thought.
And don't forget Octavian Smith too.
Octavian Smith playing great from the beginning of the year, especially on special teams. But his few opportunities on offense was also very good. Special teams genius, basically there.
Right, exactly. And not to mention, there's still rumblings out there about WVU wide receiver Caden Prather. I think his decision's all going to be based around what we talked about earlier with Leah's decision. If Leah decides to stay, I think Caden Prather, from what I'm hearing, is in the bag. We'll see. But again, it all just depends on Leah. If Leah doesn't come back, you can pretty much take Caden Prather off the board.
He comes in the bag with the NIL money that goes to Leah. Like Talia, he's packed in with the money.
So overall, man, again, we're going to dive more in depth with this over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months. I'm pretty happy
Ahmed that actually knows something. We're just talking about how excited we are as fans. Like Ahmed knows these guys like baby sisters and their moms, and you know what car they drive. I just know some stars and like some heights and weights and stuff.
Yeah, if you're looking for more information now and you're not already subscribed, make sure you go to subscribe to Inside the Black and Gold, because Ahmed and team goes into complete depth in all of these guys. So if you're looking for more information, make sure you check that out.
Yeah, him and Mason put out Inside the Bag that broke down all these guys too, if you want to check that out.
Absolutely. So let's talk bowl game, man. Duke's Mayo Bowl, Friday, December 30th, kicks off at 12:03, weird time, on ESPN. The team
Fuck
already
you, I'm gonna
left.
sit down at 12:05.
Yeah, it's a weird time for him to kick off, but whatever. Team left for Charlotte on Monday. They're doing their whole experience down there. They were doing the motorway experience, I think, earlier today, which is kind of cool. They ride around the NASCAR track in the NASCARs.
Charlotte Speedway.
Yeah, Charlotte Speedway. It's kind of cool. We're going to be down there. COVID, we'll see. More than likely, we're going to be heading down there.
Feeling great, Fred. I'm going to do 100 push-ups to prove it.
We'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. But it sounds like we're going to be down there. We got a couple club level seats as we'll be down there. Our plans are play some golf, watch some football, play some golf. See you later. It's going to be pretty much our plans.
Yeah, I know we grabbed those meet and greet tickets for before the game. They're having like 32-ounce beer card or something at this place, Slingshot, which is like gaming, like Dave & Buster's looking thing apparently.
Yeah.
So it's a limited gaming breakfast sandwich and some beer. So I feel like, you can't really tailgate at these bowl games, or at least I can't. I'm not bringing all that stuff for that kind of drive and packing that many people into a car. So I don't have an RV yet. I don't have that LSU money.
All right. So I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be a fun trip. Last year obviously we got a chance to do the Pinstripe Bowl. That was a lot of fun too. So I'm looking forward to just extending the good times that we've had on all of these Big Ten trips that we've made, including the bowl games.
Shout out to Anthony Pecorella that helped me out. I just went back to New York City with my family, and I was wandering around trying to find that amazing pizza that we had last year and couldn't quite come up with exactly where it was. So I hit my boy up.
NY Suprema, right?
Yep, New York Pizza Suprema. I said, I know you said we were right. It was the best pizza in New York. What is it? And he hit me back immediately like, New York Pizza Suprema. Can't miss. There's a lot of pizza in New York, guys. Like, and I went back. I was like, "Yep, that's it."
All right, man. But before we talk about the competition in this game, let's talk a little bit about who will actually be suiting up for the Terps. I know we've kind of alluded to some of it. Last season, is obviously the first bowl game in a while. But we saw guys like Nick Cross, Chickaconquo, both play in the Pinstripe Bowl despite being locks for the NFL draft. That doesn't seem to be the case this year, as we talked about. The wide receiver
totally
position,
crew.
definitely
all
different
these
crew.
7th round picks are just sitting it out this year.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. I mean, some of these guys, again,
personal choice,
already
I guess.
It's personal choice. They already had their bowl game experience last year in the Pinstripe Bowl, so how meaningful is it for them? So again, at the wide receiver position, all three of the big guys, Rakim Jarrett, Dante Demas, Jacob Copeland, all will not play. It does sound like they're going to have their security blanketed Jay-Sean Jones for the game. But again, this is a time for some of the young guys to shine. Last year, we saw Brian Cobbs, we saw Daryl Jones, a lot of guys that didn't get a whole lot of run during the regular season make big impacts in the bowl game. So who's that going to be this year? You're going to see a lot of the young guys, Ty Felton, Octavian Smith, Shalik Knotts get a lot of run where they did, they played sparingly here and there throughout the year, but this is the time for them to shine.
To be fair, we scored 84 touchdowns last year, so it was a lot easier to get a lot of people involved. No, I do. We will definitely see the new faces, and we will see, an old face get fed. I think that Jay-Sean Jones will eat. I mean, he's going to be pushing definitely over a 100-yard game. I think he might clips 150. I think that Talia is a creature of habit, and to have that safety blanket there, a sure-handed, aggressive wide receiver, I think is going to get fed. The breakouts can definitely happen. We can see Shalik Knotts back in the home state of North Carolina go off. We can see Ty Felton with his speed show the ACC that Big Ten speed's different. I mean, there are options, but I think that the anger and the familiarity of Jay-Sean Jones is going to show out in this game, and maybe spin his direction to be another late round draft pick. I don't know. We'll see. I do want to play. Let's do this right now. So we'll do another bet later on the same thing, but early. What wide receiver gets drafted first in the NFL draft? We'll do a round of golf. That's the bet.
All right. What wide receiver out of the three
gets the first drafted
first? Rack. I think because he's the total package. I mean, he can.
So do I get field or do I have to pick now?
What's that? No, you
Rack
have to
versus
pick.
the field, or I have to pick now.
You have to pick now.
I would have really liked the field. That would have been. I would have felt real good on the field.
Of course.
I'll take Demas. I'll take just
really.
I
mean, upside.
Yeah, we've seen these injuries, the delayed, comebacks and things like that. So just the upside of his body size and the fact that I do think Rack would have been a second-round pick if he didn't drop every ball thrown to him this year after the Michigan game. I don't know what happened. I swear to God, he was practicing catching NFL balls and forgot the college ball is smaller on Saturdays. I don't know.
I think he's just he brings more of the total package, and he doesn't have the injury risk. Like I love Dante Demas, and if Dante Demas was 100% healthy and didn't have the knee injury, and we were having this same discussion, I would have gone Dante Demas because again, that kind of size, that kind of speed, that kind of jump ability, all of that, the explosiveness. That's what's in question right now. We didn't get to see that during the season. And how healthy is he once the combine starts, right? How much does he show at the combine? Is he a little hindered? Can he not perform in certain things? It just depends. But Rack, from what we're seeing, like a lot of wide receivers really being productive from the slot in the NFL, that's where he projects to be. I think, honestly, regardless of the drop issues that he had this year, I still think he can be a late second to mid third, I think is where he'll end up being. I personally
then I'm wrong because if the team is not going in those, I was thinking that all of our wide receivers and basically all of our players at this point are going to be 4th, 5th, 6th round draft picks.
No,
it's not going right.
And maybe that's me overvaluing and overhyping. I still think he can be a late second to mid third is where I see him being, but I don't know. We'll see. But if I had to be a betting man, like you're asking me to do, that's where my money would go. 1
round of golf, Demas versus Rack. If somebody else gets it, we push.
All right. Sounds good. The tight end position, like we talked about, another one that was recently hit pretty hard with the portal. Dupree's gone. Wolf's gone. Corey Dyches, Theron Husbands. I think they're going to be the two guys to shine, man. We don't really have a whole lot of other options there at tight end.
Dyches is going to eat, or maybe we'll just have an extra tackle on the field. I am
kind of excited to see what Husbands brings because we haven't seen it yet, right? Yeah. We don't know what he brings to the table. So again,
it's going to be a surprise because we looked at the spring game and we saw what we thought was the next one in line was Weston Wolf. So to see that this. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe in the middle of the season, he was jumped by the newcomer, the young guy that, he wasn't going to be the next one up. So hopefully that's right. Hopefully he was going to be riding the bench again next year, and this wasn't as big a loss as we thought it would be.
Right. Yeah. That'd be great. That'd be ideal. We'll see. Offensive line, there were the question marks, whether Jalen Duncan, Spencer Anderson are going to end up playing. It sounds like they are going to be playing.
Both traveled, so I don't know what they'd be doing otherwise.
Right. So that's good, especially for keeping Leah upright. We do have some depth pieces behind them that I do think we'll see in rotation and get some minutes in Andre Roy and Max McCree. I think they'll get some work in this game, but just having Duncan and Anderson out there makes me feel good for Leah and makes me feel better for our chances in winning this game.
As long as Lunsford's playing, we're good.
That's true too. Very true. Behind the offensive line would be a young stable of running backs. Couple of guys that really burst onto the scene in the Pinstripe Bowl last year in Roman Hemby and Antoine Littleton. That was kind of their come out party last year. Obviously, they're going to be a big factor in this game as well, but I think we'll see a lot more of Ramon Brown in this game because Locks always talks about it, that 2020 this bowl game is really preparations for 2023, and Ramon Brown is going to have a much bigger role in 2023 with Shalyn Famatel leaving into the portal. Colby McDonald, I don't know what his role with the team's going to be, if he's even going to be with the team next year. So I factor. Yeah, I think
I would
Ramon
not
Brown,
blame that guy at all. I will be happy if I'm wrong and he sticks around because he showed that he was very good as a freshman. But to see the rug ripped out from under you like that, where you were like the lead dog of your own class and now you're third in that same class of players, nothing changed. No one was added. It just got leapfrogged. I wouldn't blame him at all if he joins the portal, but I'm happy to keep this whole stable, but like you said, this is about next year, and it's about recruiting your own team at this point. And Ramon Brown's going to get more work than probably even his fair share, just to try to stop him from jumping into the portal, because he's
100%.
He's the big horse that you think maybe he will, because we do have two ahead of me, and you're trying to pitch the Locks like you're next year's Hemby, like you're going to be number 1 or 2 next year. So we'll see.
Secondary, we'll start with corners. Dante Banks, he's off to prepare for the NFL draft, so he's not playing. Jayon Venerable, who was a guy that if he was going to be a part of this team next year, I figured we'd see him a little bit in this game, but he's decided to enter the portal, so he's not going to be here. Jacorian Bennett, he was a guy that we were kind of borderline whether or not he was going to play. He is going to play. He traveled with the team. He's there. So it leaves us with Bennett, Still, Corey Cooley, and Lionel Whitaker at cornerback. So I'm feeling pretty good about that squad. I would love to have Banks there, but I still feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I'd love for Banks to show off one more time. I will addend my earlier statement. I do think he's the one that goes before the 4th round. I think that he could end up being that late 2nd, early 3rd round pick. Just people just seem really high on his talent.
Super high on him. I mean,
so
they've been super high on him for
earlier
a while.
4th round is where we start looking at Terps. He's the one that's going to shock me.
But our question was about wide receivers. Our questions didn't involve
but
corners.
during that conversation, I said all of our Terps end up being the late round picks. So I just wanted to addend that statement.
Gotcha. Safety, starters Dante Trader, both Bo Braid, both good to play. They'll be there. Again, no Shane Mosley, Isaiah Hazel. Both of those guys are in the portal, so they'll be gone. So we don't have a whole lot of depth behind those two guys there. So that's a bit of a concern. I guess one of the other question marks, speaking of NFL draft, was Chad Ryland going to be there kicking for the Terps? He will be. He traveled with the team. Obviously, he's another guy that's got NFL dreams. I don't know if he's got NFL draft dreams because not very many kickers get drafted. So we'll see. But he's a top 2 kicker.
That streak needed to continue a little longer if he was going to get drafted, I think.
Right.
But exactly. He could definitely get an invite to a couple camps. I told Ahmed and Fred earlier when we were talking, like, the day that the kickers start sitting out bowl games because they are worried about injuries for the NFL is the day that college football is officially dead. Like, cancel all the bowls. We don't need any of them. You got hit once in your whole career and you're worried it might happen again in the bowl game. Like, calm down. so it's just kind of shocking. It was a question, but I saw it out there. Is he going to be there or not? Since he is going to the draft, so he will be kicking. Hopefully, he gets a chance to hit a game winner or maybe just like 45 extra points.
Right. Hopefully, it's not that close. I mean, the odds makers right now have it as
we're now dogs.
We're now dogs, 1.5 point dogs at this point. So I mean, this could be a push. We'll see what happens with this game, but.
Well, Wales out there betting NC State, Maryland, swinging this line here, man. I don't know. It's some big Mark Cubans out here betting on this.
Right. So NC State heading into this, man, they've lost their last 3 bowl games that they've been in. The ACC has been on the losing end of the last 3 Mayo Bowl appearances. So all of this is aligning well for the Terps. We're looking to go back-to-back in bowl games versus ACC opponents between last year over Virginia Tech and this year versus NC State. We'll see, man. This is a very good NC State team. It's a team that was highly ranked heading into the season. I think right now they're 23rd overall in the country. And that's despite having 4 different quarterbacks play this year. They've still managed to win 8 games this year, which is pretty impressive. Their main starting quarterback guy started the year, Dean Leary, ended up having a season-ending pectoral injury, and now apparently he's out and he's transferring to Kentucky. But that's partly because the replacements that he had come in both played very, very well in his absence, and it sounds like both of them are healthy, and they still haven't announced who's going to actually start this game.
Yeah, and Leary set all the records pretty much for NC State and wanted a bag of money before he leaves college because, why not? But his replacement, 2 freshmen, MJ Morris and Ben Finley, 6'2", 192 and 6'3", 205. No announcement, like you said. The one guy, MJ Morris, is lucky that they have a basically home game for a bowl game here playing in Charlotte because he hasn't played on the road yet. He played all his 3 games at home. I found that an interesting set. The other guy got thrown to the Wolves on the road. I don't know if that was a coach's preference type thing or just an injury issue, but I did find it funny. They split the home and road games.
Gotcha. Interesting. All right. So tell me a little bit about this team outside of the quarterback position. What kind of what kind of threats do they present? Do they have a good running back? What does their wide receiver core look like? Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so their leading running back for the Wolfpack is from guess where? Maryland. Everywhere we go, we get haunted by our local recruits. So don't get mad at us, USC.
Surprise,
If we want to try to keep good football players. I'm sorry that your high schools don't have any good football players, so you all have to come here, and we have to play Blake Corum at Michigan, and we have to play all these people all across the country. Caleb Williams winning Heisman's. We have really good high school football players here. Everybody steals our shit. So anyway, he's from Waldorf, Maryland, and played his high school ball at Flint School in Oakton, Virginia. So it's some familiarity there. Wide receiver 2 by yardage this year, Devin Carter, left for the portal. He caught 118 passes for 1,906 yards and 10 touchdowns in his 5 seasons. So they really kind of spread the ball out. Like to have that be over 5 years, and that's your wide receiver 2, it wasn't all that impressive. They basically are a defensive team. They had one of the best linebacker units in the country. All of those are pretty much playing in this bowl game. The only benefit for us is they did lose some defensive linemen before this bowl game, so hopefully we can get to those linebackers a little bit easier. Yeah,
that's going to be crucial to this game for sure. Anything on the defensive side? So I know you said that that they're pretty good on the defensive side. I mean, is there any stars on that side that we need to be worried about?
Well, their starting nose tackle actually left for the NFL draft, so that helps us out in that.
Durden was not playing.
He's not playing.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Durden was a 4-star prospect in 2017 recruiting class out of Florida. Played for the Seminoles in 16 out of his 32 games, and in 21 he transferred to NC State. And he took it to the next level, winning first team all ACC and third team honors. So he left them for the NFL drafts. Like I said, that should open up some windows to get to those linebackers.
All right, man. Well, I guess the piece that we haven't talked a lot about yet, I mean, we've mentioned it a couple times, but Taulia, obviously he's going to be playing in this game, but his future status with the team is still kind of up in the air. And a lot of pieces, there's a lot of moving pieces around it, whether if he ends up coming back, this team could take shape and look really good heading into next year with some other pieces coming on board. What's your vibe? What's your feeling on Leah coming back in 2023? Do you think he comes back? What's kind of the hanging piece here for Leah?
I'm 100% sure he will be in college next year. I am terrified that Ahmed mentioned that could also not be here if the NIL money is not right. It's kind of mind-blowing to me with the clear and obvious relationship that Mike Locksley has with not only him, but his family and his brother, his mom, dad, and his brother. And to see, this moment this year with one of the scariest moments in the kid's life, watching his brother on TV, contorted from this head injury and going through that
who's now in concussion protocol again. Yeah.
So I understand you get your bag of money when you can get your bag of money, and you're one hit away from never having it. But I sure hope that Loxley's at least getting every opportunity to match said bag of money. And so hopefully it all works out and he's here. It feels kind of gross. The guy that set every record in Maryland school history could go play one more free agent year somewhere. And in my head, yes, is Taulia a very good quarterback? Sure. But I thought that the people being poached like this to big name schools for big bags of money would be top 10 in the country. He's top 30. Which is still great. We'd love to have a top 30 quarterback at College Park. But I didn't know that was even a possibility that some bigwig would want to come because, again, he does have his faults. He's not the prototypical big quarterback, but he is a great passer. So I didn't know the market was there.
It's what you get around Leah, right? And it's what you get around the name. Yes, you're right. From a talent standpoint, he's a top 30 quarterback in the college football. But like we just talked about, all these moving pieces around Leah's decision around the Terps, I feel like that would be the appeal for another school is, yeah, he's a top 30 guy, but how much can we improve as a team by bringing him here? Which does that mean we get a guy like a Caden Prather who would follow him here, or who would, some of these other portal targets that would come here and instantly make your offense that much better. You talk about a team like who was it? Iowa, great defensive team, terrible offensive team. Again, you hate to see him go somewhere in the conference, but if he went to Iowa, night and day how much better that team would be overall, because their quarterback play was so bad.
Points. We're the only person they've ever scored points against.
But with Leah there, I'm pretty sure they can score some points, Ryan. That's my point. And their offense gets a lot better because, again, pieces come with him. So it's the total package with Leah. But I'm right there with you, man. It's,
feels gross.
This is no shot at Leah or anything like that, but I just don't think he has any pro projections. If he does, it would be more of a, as a undrafted free agent kind of guy. I don't see a team taking a chance on him through the draft outside of his name. He just hasn't shown enough arm talent in college. I mean, he's got the numbers, he's got the stats, but the bar is really low at Maryland. So when you're looking at like what he's done and all the records that he's set, it's impressive, but it's not that impressive in the grand scheme
of things. Our great quarterbacks were back when they didn't throw the ball. Like that was
exactly.
That's when we had great quarterbacks.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of truth, especially when you're talking about the family aspect and what you're looking at what Tua's going through right now. Tua's in a position where he really has to make a life decision, whether he decides to put himself at risk and continue to play in the NFL or cash out on the deal that he's got right now, retire and try to have a better quality of life, right? So that's put a lot of things, I think, in perspective for his entire family. Is Leah knows that he's not an idiot. He knows what his pro projects are, like what they would be. So if he doesn't see a potential pro project, he needs to cash in when he can cash in. And if that means going and playing somewhere, even if he doesn't want to play there, but he's going to get paid more, I hate to say that it comes down to money, but it may, because it sets him up for future.
And technically, wasn't he listed as a redshirt junior this year? Am I making that up? I'm pretty sure he was listed as a junior.
He was he was a junior. Yeah.
Okay.
So next year would be his senior.
Yeah, but then he has a COVID year. So he could get paid
I don't think he can. I think this was the last year you could use COVID years, right?
Oh, I don't know. This is where we needed Ahmed. Ahmed? Click in.
Damn it, Ahmed.
So
I think that was the thing.
I thought it was just if you played that year, you could just count it at the end. So maybe I'm wrong. But okay, well, who knows? So, but even if it is, if it's NFL money, I looked, the league minimum is $207,000. So to me, Maryland needs to go find $207,000 in NIL. That's how you make this decision. But again, I wasn't thinking at all. I wasn't thinking at all that another college was involved. So therefore, that number might be bullshit. So it's just kind of scary, and guess we need some more bags. But we didn't have to pay CJ. CJ was already on some Under Armour commercials, so maybe that just lightened up some room in Kevin Plank's pockets. We'll have to find out.
Well, 2023, I think success all falls around Leah's decision. Because when you look at other internal options,
we could also go like 3 running backs and just go Navy style.
If they're just sitting on it, Ryan, I don't know if that's a good option. We'll see. We have very good backs, but they're complimentary backs, so we'll see. This is not a shot at Billy Edwards, but I haven't been overly impressed with what he's been able to do through the air yet. Yes, he's got some mobility and he's been able to make some plays, extend plays with his legs. I just haven't been overly impressed through the air.
And he looks the part, so give him a year, and I think he could be good. But yeah, I'm gonna be real sad if
another year is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Another one?
He needs he needs another year behind Leah is what I'm saying. So I don't think he's ready.
Long and Edwards competition in 2024.
2024, yeah, and then you got to throw Cam Edge in there as well, because Cam Edge is another one that's highly rated too. So those are the internal options right now going into 2023 would be Billy Edwards and Cam Edge. We don't know what we have in Cam Edge.
And then we got a St. Francis quarterback that comes in and replaces them all.
The 5-star, that could be. Could be. We'll see.
I doubt it, but it's a disgrace if we don't get the best quarterback in the country.
That fucking kid ends up going to Charlotte and following Pogge. I'm gonna be so pissed off.
There's not a bag big enough in the world, is there? I mean,
I don't know,
I guess
man. The McDonald's
Dion
bags
got that
get
one
real
kid
big
last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we'll see, man. We'll see. So, what do you think of this game with this Mayo Bowl? Do you think Terps can pull it off? Do you think Locks ends up taking the Mayo bath?
I think we do. Yes, we lost some things on our defense, but we do have young players to replace most of it. I'm a little worried with our cornerbacks, but I'm just not impressed by their passing game at all. I don't think they have the offense to keep up. I do think that Talia's gonna have to play a decent game and protect the ball. But if you can do that and have efficient passing, just Sean Jones possession types catch the ball for 10 to 15 yards and fall down, that's going to be enough to open up the running back, the running lanes for your running backs. So if we can have any amount of medium depth threat in the passing game, I think we can win.
I'm right there with you. I do think the odds makers have it right. I think it's going to be a close game. I think we have
great
weapons.
kickers, so we have no advantage.
True.
They have first team all conference kicker, or first team all American kicker at NC State, Christopher Dunn. So no advantage to us in the kicking game, unlike most of the games this year.
Yeah, it's going to be close. Like you said, I do think we have the weapons to be able to do it, especially on the ground. Through the air, it's rhythm, it's continuity. That's my only question is how much practice have these guys put in working with Leah and working with the ones, and do we see that translate in this game? I think Jayshon Jones could end up having 10 catches in this game. It could be that where he just uses him as a security blanket, and he's the familiarity. He's the one piece that he knows, right?
Don't forget Corey Dyches was the leading receiver, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
He's still there.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I'm excited about the potential with the youth that we have, right? I've been wanting to see Shalik Knox because he was the highly rated wide receiver that we got coming into this year. Right. Again, like you said, he's going home. So I think it's a time for him to shine. Matter of fact, he could end up being the breakout star in this game. If I had to pick one that wasn't the obvious, it's not Jayshon Jones, it's not Corey Dyches. If I'm going to pick somebody outside of the box, I think Shalik Knox can be that Jones of last year.
Well, he had electric speed the few times we saw him get loose. He had some diving attempts on those balls that just didn't quite end up going his way. With all these wide receivers stepping out of the way, I would imagine that Talia has had a lot of time to work with him and Ty and some of these faster receivers. And what we saw this year with Talia's deep ball is that he was out throwing receivers. It was not the same speed that Demas had last year. He was throwing to everybody as if it was Demas in 2021. And so hopefully with a little bit of work with these guys that do have that kind of speed, we can really see that reconnect. And if we do, it could get real messy real fast, and I could celebrate on the ACC's grave once more.
All right, man. Well, what's your prediction for Mayo Bowl MVP? You already got the Terps winning it. You think they can win it. Who do you see being the MVP in this game?
Old faithful, Jayshon Jones. I think that, we've had a love-hate relationship with Jayshon over the years, and if this is the last game, I think it's going to be a very strong love. I hope we see him another season, but I think that Jayshon will make us forget all the 15-yard penalties with this one last performance.
I mean, the obvious choice here would be Leah as the MVP of the game. If he has a 300-yard game, a 3-touchdown game, he's the obvious choice. But I'm going to go on the ground, and I'm going to go with the kid that we haven't seen a whole lot from yet. We're going to say Ramon Brown, because I think he is going to get the lion's share of carries in this game, because, again, you want to know what you have in him, and you want to give him all the opportunity, like you said, to keep him around, to keep him engaged.
J.K. Dobbins frame.
He does, man. Again, in high school, he looked like an NFL prospect. I mean, he's just built. He's got everything to be the part. I just want to see how it translates on the field, and maybe if he gets 10 to 15 carries, that we see him break 100 yards. We see him get some. We haven't really seen him out in space yet. We haven't really seen him break that run, But again, it's just on limited carries. So I'm going to go with the long shot. I'm going to go with Ramon Brown as being the MVP in this game.
All right. Yeah, I would definitely think that he could be a breakout star. Just with a little bit safer bet there on Jayshon Jones.
I'm going with the high odds. All right, man. Let's talk a little basketball. Things
Not
were,
much.
yeah, things were pretty disappointing for our first or second trip down to Xfinity Center. We go to watch the UCLA game. Beyond just disappointing, it was embarrassing. I mean, we got ran out of that gym. I've never wanted to leave a Terps game early, and I had thoughts of it at halftime. I mean, it was just everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong in that game. Nobody could hit a shot. They turning the ball over left and right. They just looked outmanned, outsized, dominated in every which way. It was a really bad showing.
Hey, the first 5 minutes was great. It was 0-0 for longer than any game I've ever seen in the history of time.
It was.
Both teams couldn't hit a shot for 5 minutes. Then they figured out how to fucking shoot the lights out, and we never figured it out. Not at all.
Yeah.
Never learned to shoot a layup, a throw. Martinez was the only one that looked like he knew how to play basketball on the whole court. Unfortunately, Big Tree Babalade was there with Nicholas Harbor in case. All the big wigs were there.
What a night and day difference in games between Illinois and UCLA with Harbor there.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Illinois was just like so exciting and just like a whole new atmosphere. And we were silly enough to invite him back one more time. Thought we could show off again.
Yeah.
He was still get to rub elbows with the big wigs and feel important, but I'm sure that, you know, if they're superstitious, either one of them, that it could have hurt their opinion of Maryland in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tough stretch for the Terps. You know, I'm not trying to throw them under the rug or anything like that. I mean, they played a lot of games against a very daunting schedule there for about 2 weeks. And I mean, they held their own in pretty much every one of those games outside.
They very
of UCLA.
easily could have won Wisconsin and Tennessee. They probably should have won Tennessee, honestly, even as bad as they played the first half. It was one of the best halves of basketball I've ever seen in the second half. So,
exactly.
It could have been a lot better. Coulda, woulda, shouldas, you know. But this is a team we did not have expectations for. They just built them through that Illinois game. They set their expectations. So they're pretending to be the football team. They're going to win those first 5 or 6 games and fall on their face and make us all sad. Like they switch roles for us.
Right, exactly. But they did have 8 days of rest. Then they had the layup against St. Peter's, which was a much needed opponent, I think, for multiple reasons. St. Peter's was a team that made a run last year in the tournament. Like, they were the Cinderella team, if you remember. This was not the same St. Peter's team by any stretch of the imagination.
They were gutted by the transfer portal because of that.
Right, exactly. But yeah, Julian Reese, who was out, which we've already talked about how this team just struggles down low with the lack of size and with the lack of physicality. And then you don't have Julian Reese. You're thinking, Christ, this could be a bad game too. But I'll be honest with you. You know, you got a few guys. Emilion came in, played crucial minutes, stepped up and played really, really good defense. He was good on the boards. Considering, again, he's an undersized 5 to be out there. I thought he played a really good game. But I think what was good to see in this game was, I think you had 10 players play 10 plus minutes in this game. You had guys get back on the right side of things, shooting the ball. You had Dante Scott struggled in the first half. He had a couple of made threes in the second half, back to back, which made me feel better about where he is, but threes are not where he should be living. I hate the fact that that's where he's living right now. But to see Hakeem Hart bounce back, to see Jameer Young bounce back, Jameer Young, what I really like about him is you can see how serious he takes this, because after such a shitty performance against UCLA, he stayed for hours after that game out on the floor, just shooting ball after ball after ball, trying to work on his flow and try to work on his rhythm and his shot and getting it back.
And there was something wrong because he was missing them while not guarded.
He was.
Like he was so angry that he could not hit a 3-pointer.
Right, exactly. But that all turned around. He seemed to got it figured out. He played really well in that St. Peter's game. So again, I think this was a game that the team needed. They needed it for confidence, to build themselves back up. Obviously Reese is dealing with a shoulder injury, so he needed the night off to kind of, just give that a little bit more time. And it was good to see them get the win in such a dominating fashion that they did.
Yeah, that's when we should have left the building. We ended up making it like halfway to maybe 3/4 way through the second half. But when the second half came out and Reese has got a 20-pound bag of ice strapped to his shoulder, we should have realized it was not getting better from there on out. But yeah, he's continued to sit for the next game.
Right. They got UMBC coming up on the 29th, 7 p.m. tip off right before the Dukes Mayo, or right after the Dukes Mayo Bowl. Then they open Big Ten play at Michigan to start the new year. Hunter Dickinson and Temper Tantrum Howard, always crowd favorites. These are guys that, did you see Howard was back in this shit again with some other fucking team the other day? He was chirping at the refs and chirping at players.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a problem since the beginning. I don't know what it's going to take, but I do know he's losing now, so maybe like Michigan will just do the right thing since Big Ten won't do anything about anything. I think Michigan's just going to be like, we dealt with you being an asshole while winning, but if you're going to lose while being a dick, just get out. So I'm just hoping that just ends this guy's career because nobody will do anything about him being just a temper tantrum waiting to happen versus every team in the country. Once it's 3 people now, you're the problem. You're the problem. Nobody else.
Yeah.
It wasn't that Turgeon touched you. It wasn't that Mark Few touched you. It wasn't nobody did anything wrong but you. Because you're a crybaby that's really mad you're not still in the NBA at 80 and somehow wants to be relevant. So we're going to pick fights at college basketball games.
He did have a long NBA career. He hung around on the benches for a long time. I know. Let it go.
Looks like he's got that Jordan thing where like Jordan still wants to get on the court. Like he can't like enjoy a basketball game. He just wants to be like, I'm still better than all these people out here. Like, it's just like, all right, we're great, but like it's over now. Like let the boys play. You don't need to be so hyped into this.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Agree.
It's just different. He has not checked out of player mode. He is not in coach mode. He may be a decent coach, but as far as in game, he is still taking the highs and lows like a player does. He is in the throes of the moment and not in control.
Yep. But that's it, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully, for those that are making the trip down to Charlotte for the bowl game, let us know. Hit us up. Maybe we can meet up at some point. Maybe we go to. I know there was an after party or after.
So we're doing the before thing at the Slingshot. That was a ticketed event, and then there is a meet and greet for that game you're talking about. The UMBC game is actually the night before at 7 p.m. So it's the night that we get down there. So there's a bar. It's advertised on all the Maryland sites. They're doing like a Maryland meetup. So we'll probably end up there at some point throughout the night, as well as all our golf outings. So if you're looking to join up, maybe there's still a spot in the foursome.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, well, Ryan, sign us off.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to take my Tamiflu, do some push-ups, make sure we get the rest of this COVID out of the system, be good to go, pack up this van, and get ourselves down to a bowl game for another ACC domination. So let's go. Until next time, here's to wishing all is well under the shell.